In the United States, more uncertainty, more chaos, and simply no clear leader for the U.S. House of Representatives. Again, Republicans ended Jim Jordan's bid for the job. Jordan failed to get enough support in the third round of voting on Friday. CGTN's Jim Spellman brings us up to date.
The chaos on Capitol Hill continues. Jim Jordan, the Republican nominee for Speaker of the House, lost a third ballot Friday. Republicans then met in closed-door meetings and voted against Jordan continuing as their nominee.
Polly and I got a call from. I felt it was important that we all know, get an answer to the question if they wanted me to continue in that role. And so we put the question to them. They made a different decision. I told the conference that I appreciated getting to work with everyone, talk with everyone. I got to know members in our conference that I didn't really know that well over the last 3 weeks.
So now Republicans are planning a candidate forum in the coming days to find a new nominee, but there is no sign that anything that has transpired in the last 2.5 weeks since Kevin McCarthy was ousted that has helped overcome the serious divisions within the Republican Party. It's possible there simply isn't anyone who can bring together that party in the House of Representatives in the short term. On Thursday, Republicans rejected the idea of expanding the powers of Congressman Patrick McHenry, the temporary speaker, but soon they may have no choice. Currently, McHenry has only caretaker powers. This plan would allow the House to take up legislation and begin functioning again. Democrats say they're open to that sort of arrangement.
We are willing to find a bipartisan path forward so we can reopen the House and solve problems for hard-working American taxpayers. It's time for traditional Republicans to get off the sidelines, get in the arena, realize that the chaos, dysfunction, and extremism has to end.
But working with Democrats is a no-go for some conservative Republicans in the House of Representatives. Jim Spellman, CGTN, Washington.
The United States and European Union have been quick to show a united front supporting Israel after the attack by Hamas. But there are still long-standing trade tensions heightened by competing green energy as well as technology strategies. So the two are trying to find common ground with low-key bilateral summits. Owen Fairclough has more.
The European Union and the US are united over Israel's right to defend itself against Hamas. But trade tensions accelerated by the race for technological superiority have long divided both sides. So they're holding bilateral summits to resolve them. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen making her second visit to US President Joe Biden at the White House on Friday. They've agreed to try to work together more to amass minerals critical for things like the production of lithium batteries that fuel electric cars, an integral part of both sides' visions to build carbon-neutral economies. But Biden's use of hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies to spark investment in green energy has prompted complaints of protectionism by the EU. And the EU is still smarting from tariffs imposed by Biden's predecessor Donald Trump, predominantly on steel imports. The Biden administration has suspended those tariffs until the end of October, while both sides negotiate a path forward. But there are concerns that unless they can reach an agreement on how to stop their respective trade policies harming each other, the US tariffs will be reimposed. Owen Fairclough, CGTN, Washington.
Let's take a deeper dive into this and discuss how this fight for critically important raw materials could play out. We're joined by Remi Piet, senior partner at Embellie Advisory. Thanks very much for joining us. I certainly appreciate it. I kind of want to cut to the chase. What are we talking about? What kind of minerals the United States and EU have concerns about? And please explain why they are so important to so much of the technology moving forward.
Hi, Sean. Very good question indeed. I mean, you definitely have here discussions at very high level in terms of addressing the issue of energy transition and being able to attract the investment in key developing sectors, especially EV metals, EV batteries. There's been a very important movement from the Biden administration, the Inflation Reduction Act, that's created very strong access to the battery manufacturing capacities in North America, and there needs to be some kind of an agreement, or that's what the European Union is pushing for, to have an agreement between the European Union and the US in terms of being able to have joint competitiveness in terms of these technologies. We're talking about minerals such as lithium, manganese, cobalt, nickel, those that are obviously extremely important to that transition, energy transition. And so far, the progress has been quite scarce. Mainly the idea that those minerals that would be produced from Europe would actually benefit from the same trade interest and incentives towards the US, but not particularly towards for other industries such as car manufacturing and battery metals and cathodes. And that's what the European Union is trying to achieve, as did the UK actually a few 6 months ago, if I'm not wrong, with the US.
Remi, for more than a decade now, I've been chasing stories on rare earth elements. Obviously, this is something different, but it's still kind of the same thing. You need these to build everything that's important in this century. I mean, if you just look at it, and there's so much criticism too about the people who are deniers in terms of climate change that say, why are we focusing so much on lithium when we could still be using fossil fuels? How do you respond to all this?
Well, clearly there's a need, especially an agreement between the European Union and the US on the status of climate change, and the need to be able to transition towards this new economy and different modes of transportation, such as battery cars and electric battery cars and others. But yes, clearly the question here is to look at how you see the importance of those minerals, how you're able also to build the sector, manufacturing sectors for those cars, for those batteries. I mean, it's not so much about having access to the minerals and security of access. It's also about securing jobs and industries in very important sectors of mineral transformation and having clear regulation in terms of the environmental necessities for those industries. And here you're trying to see very interesting talks on what is sustainable mining, what is transformation of minerals, and trying to move forward on those issues. Now, in terms of larger trade issues, there's been lack of progress on the sustainable steel and aluminium, apart from the definition of what would be sustainable steel. So that was already interesting.
Now, we know that Owen, in his very fine story leading up to us, described these discussions as low-key. Clearly, the U.S. and EU don't want to have a prolonged fight. Why the need to diversify supply chains of these critically important minerals?
I mean, clearly there's conversation and not to have too much conflict on those issues, trying to find cohesion, because there's a need for cohesion across the series of topics that were at questions here between Michel and von der Leyen on one side and Biden and Blinken on the other, which is covering a whole range of conflicts and geopolitical disputes that were very much different now today in 2023 than the previous summit that was in 2021. And so here you have obviously a delay in terms of finding those agreements. The question was supposed to be settled at the end of this month. It will be until the end of the year, which doesn't take a clear position towards the imposed tariffs from the Trump administration that were lifted by the Biden administration. But there's obviously a focus on key topics such as additional support to Ukraine, trying to foster an agenda of global developments that will be following certain rules of sustainability. And that's where you want to find some unity between those administration at a lack maybe of technical progress on those key topics.
If you look at the success that China's had with its EV automobiles, trucks, and whatnot, what is China's role in the supply chain? Because they have been so successful. Where do they stand on all these critical minerals?
Well, actually, China has definitely a leg up in terms of the early manufacturing, in terms of the capacities, in terms of smelting some of those minerals. There's an attempt here, obviously, from the European Union and the United States to promote the territory towards also a capacity to transform minerals, as well as China has done. There's maybe a little more ambition in terms of the sustainability front into those agreements, because this is what's very important. I mean, you won't be able to have a clear energy transition and access to global developments if you don't harvest the minerals in a sustainable ways in different jurisdictions in Africa and Latin America, in China itself. And that's where there is a push towards being able to have global consensus on those issues. China definitely has strong capacities in the mining sectors across all jurisdictions, and is actually understanding from some time already the importance of developing that part of the economy.
Okay, getting back to the EU and the US, what do we not know about their discussions going on? What are they not agreeing upon?
Oh, so obviously, as I said, there's no clear agreements as of today in terms of the capacity to export steel and actually to be able to approach the additional and too much of a production globally on those issues. And so the importance of the inventory and production capacities has led at that point to the Trump tariffs that are very popular in some states in the US. And obviously Biden would have had to face a strong political cost if if you actually were to lift or confirm the lift of those import duties, because that actually could be an argument in his sleeve to be able to move towards conquering some of the states in the Midwest, specifically in the Rust Belt of the U.S. In the case of the European Union, there's definitely a worry that the current problems in the Congress, the lack of capacity to pass some bills and financial support to Ukraine might strongly impact further the situation in Europe. So you see, those are key topics in the back of the minds of both parts of those conversations. But that was a successful meeting. Down there was not particularly strong agreement or final points, some of the disputes on the trade issues, but clear kind of alignment on some key topics of conflict, from Azerbaijan, Armenia to the Middle East to other theaters of operations. That's why the agenda was extremely full this year.
Our thanks to our friend Remi Piet. This issue is not going away. I'm sure we'll chat again. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Sean.